here today for Lawnfawn, and for today's project I was really in the mood to create a moving house type of card. So I decided to combine Happy Village with Plain and Simple to create a moving house card for somebody that is moving to another country. I really wanted to make a card for that occasion. So I'll also be pulling in the mini picture frames die set as well to create a fun element on my card today. To begin, I am working on my background first, and I really wanted there to be just a little bit of colour in the background. So I decided to just go for a simple like sky and land sort of scene here, just because I just want there to be a little bit of colour behind the frames. So I just wet my paper first with some water and then just added on a really light layer of blue and green. Then I dried that off with a heat tool, and now I'm adding my second layer. So here's where I'm going in with a little bit more of pigmented colour and just dabbing that on there, blending it out with a little bit of water. And then because I figured this was going to be almost my final layer, I decided to add some clean water around the edges just to blend that colour out a little further so it looks like it's fading into white just a little bit more. So I'm just drying that off again with a heat tool, and then this is how my background looks when it's all finished. It doesn't look too pretty and it's not completely gorgeous for watercolor, but since I was going to be covering it up with frames, it didn't really bother me that there were that it wasn't really like perfect looking. I just basically wanted some color in the background. So I've gone ahead and cut out 5 frames of just some white cardstock, and I've added foam tape all along the backs, and I just arranged them on my background sort of how I want them beforehand, and now I can just easily adhere them all down. So I'm removing the backers and adhering them down into place. I ended up using 3 rectangles and 2 squares for my background, and I just figured this gave it a really nice design element. Even though these images aren't too small and I don't feel like they need to be framed, I just thought this was a nice design element. It just made it look a little bit different rather than just like a standard scene card, I guess. I love creating those cards, but sometimes I just like to add a little bit more interest to my background, and using these mini frames is perfect for that. So now I've just gone ahead and stamped down all of my images onto some Nina Solo White cardstock with jet black ink, and I'm going to be using my Copic markers to colour all of these guys in. So I started off with colouring my house first, and I'm using a pink colour, and now I'm using some greens for the trees. So I'm using YG17, YG23 and then YG03 to colour those in, and I'm just working from dark to light. Once I've coloured in the trees, I'm moving on to using some yellow. So I decided to colour in my windows on my house and on my plane in with yellow. I guess it's not completely accurate for the plane, but I really just wanted it to have a little bit more colour since it's primarily just going to be grey. So I thought having the yellow in there would brighten it up just a little bit and suit my style a little bit more. Now I'm colouring the roof of the house and also the door and the window piece, the piece under the window I should say, with some aquas, so BG23, BG32 and BG11 for that. Now I'm giving a little bit of shading to my clouds, so I'm just using some really light Bs, so B000 and then B000, and then I'm just going to use the 0 marker to fade that blue out into white. I didn't want them to be completely plain, so that's why I decided to add a little bit of light blue around the edges. Just sort of brings them to life a little bit more, I guess. Once I've finished blending out the clouds, I'm colouring in my plane. So for the main section of the plane, I'm going to be colouring that in a really light grey. So I use C3, C1 and C0. I love using the C's for like metal objects. I just feel like it looks a lot more realistic. And then for the wings and like the nose of the plane, I'm using some darker C's. So C7, C5 and C3. I just didn't really want my plane to be super dark, but obviously I didn't want it to be all light grey, so that's how I pulled in the darker areas. Then I just finished off colouring the extra little speech bubble and the little clouds with some more grey markers that I used for my plane, and now I'm using the coordinating dies to cut all of my images out. I just ran them through my Big Shot machine, and this is how they look when they're all cut out. I absolutely love die cutting images. They just look so cute when they come out of the die cut machine. I just love it with the little white border. So now it's time to arrange my scene together. So I'm not adhering anything down yet. I really just wanted to frame off each little section with some of the images that I die cut and sort of get a feel for how the card is going to be put together. I really love using frames for this type of deal because I love being able to make sort of mini scenes in each of the frames, I guess. This would be really perfect too for like if you wanted to create like a scene with lots of different critters. You could sort of set up each little scene in a frame. I just think it'd be really cute, and this would also be perfect for planner images. I've done that before using mini frames to like frame little planner stamps, because obviously they're quite tiny and it's hard to create a full-sized card with them, but when you add them into little frames with some ink blending behind them, it makes it for a really easy to design card. And that's sort of what I was going for here. Even though I am using quite a few images, I feel like it would have been too plain just to put them in a scene together, but having the bases of the frames I think really helps bring the card together. So now I'm just finishing off with adhering the rest of my images. So I am just using some plain runner adhesive to adhere down my images that are in the background, and then that's when I'm pulling the foam tape out is for the images in the foreground, just because I want them to appear that they are a little bit more close. I guess. I mean, with the frames, it's not really too realistic anyway, but especially like with this house and then the tree that is almost the exact same size, I wanted it to appear that that tree was more so in the background. Then for my sentiment, I'm just going to go with a basic Miss You. So this is the speech bubble from Happy Village, but then the sentiment is from Plain and Simple. It actually comes in a long strip that says Miss You already, but I just cut all of the 3 words apart, stacked them on top of each other, and then stamped it down inside of my speech bubble. Then I'm just adding another bit of foam tape behind the speech bubble and adhering it on top of my frames. I wanted to add a little bit more colour to the side of my card base. I cut this panel a little bit skinnier so I could have a little bit of room to add some pattern paper. So I'm using the really rainbow paper pad that is brand new and just adding a piece of the rainbow one on the right hand side of my project. I just adhered that flat down with some adhesive and then did the same thing for my main panel of my card. I just added a ton of super strong adhesive on the back. Since I was using watercolor paper, I wanted it to adhere down well, and I just placed that on top of my card base as well. And I'm just bending it a little bit to make sure that it's as flat as possible. It is sometimes really difficult with using like watercolored paper to get it to adhere down completely flat. So that finishes up my card for today. I hope you enjoyed and were inspired to use these frames sort of as a fun detail aspect on your background. As I said before, it's really good to add like little images into as well. I just think it makes it a lot easier to create a card using tiny images that you may not necessarily use on a large A2 sized card. So again, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all next time.